Do you suffer from painful, heavy periods, PMS, mood swings, or migraines? Are you tired of being told they are just normal parts of life? Or are you afraid your child's going to suffer these symptoms too? At Vividus, the full of life company, we take the pain, misery, and confusion out of those menstrual cycles and replace them with tools of empowerment and time management so you can be Vividus. Visit embracingflowpodcast.com for more information on transforming your cycles from ow to wow. Information shared on the Embracing Flow podcast is for educational purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice.
Ever felt frustrated being told PMS, heavy bleeding, and cramping are just normal parts of life? You're not alone. I loathed my monthly cycle for decades. That all changed when I earned 3 health coaching certifications discovering something incredible. Your period is vital. It is an outward sign of your inner health, and it holds the key to unlocking your full potential. I've been there battling heavy, painful periods, and I turn them into cycles with minimal PMS and cramping. Today, I'm on a mission to share that information with you. Pour a cup of your favorite drink, get comfy, and grab your headphones as we embark on a candid and empowering journey of self-discovery. Together, we'll demystify menstrual cycles, explore cyclical living, delve into natural birth control, and guide parents through those crucial period talks with tweens and teens. It's time to break the taboo around menstruation and embrace the wisdom it holds. I'm your host, Heather Almendinger, and this is the Embracing Flow podcast.
Welcome and hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Embracing Flow. I'd like to introduce our guest today, an expert at Embracing Flow, Ann Bell. Welcome, Ann. How are you?
I'm well, Heather. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you on today. Listeners, Ann is began this journey in 1998 as a massage therapist, where she discovered the deep need for addressing mental, emotional, and relationship health in people's lives. Clients found solace in confiding in her during their sessions, and in 2012, she made the decision to formalize her commitment to their overall wellness and became a certified life coach. In 2020, she furthered her expertise by obtaining certifications in relationships, sex, and love coaching. She is here to remind women that their needs matter and they deserve an enjoyable, nourishing sex life. I love it, and it is so true. I, again, am very happy to have you on Embracing Flow, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
As I start with my podcasts, I ask at what age and your experience with one of your first cycles that you can remember. Some of us remember them, some of us don't, but a memory of one of your first cycles.
I remember my first one very clearly. I was in 6th grade and I walked around for a few days with my period and didn't know what to do. And I'll go back a year previous in 5th grade, we had the class, we had the talk. And I know I mentioned this earlier to you, but my schoolmate next to me, his name was Rudy, and they handed out permission slips. You know, I had to take it home, have my mom sign. And he goes, "What is this?" I says, "Oh, I think they're going to teach us about cars, you know." I had no clue. Now, mind you, I come from a family, 5 girls. My mother did not prepare us. She said nothing. So fast forward to school, 6th grade, and there I am. And finally, I remember sitting on the toilet at home and saying to my mother, "Oh, look." And she hands me the Kotex and says, "Now you're a woman." And I said, "Okay." And that was that.
And I'm pretty sure your 6th grade mind is thinking, what the heck does it mean that now I'm a woman?
That's how it happened. You know, I'm a girl in the 60s, so it wasn't talked about. It wasn't shared. You know,
No.
it wasn't anything. And it's funny because my sister is 2 year, one of my sisters, we're like 2 years apart, the older 2-year one from me. I can remember her wearing these giant Kotex and she had to wear a belt. And my mother handed me a smaller Kotex with the strip with the adhesive on the back you pulled. And my sister and I joke about that all the time. I'm like, God, you had this big whopping thing. She's, oh, it was terrible. I mean, it was really thick and long and uh,
I've heard about the, yes, the pad belts that you had to attach the cloth to, and
yes,
everybody knew that you had your period because you
yes,
couldn't hide that belt.
you couldn't hide anything. And I was so happy that I didn't have that. I had the more compacted, adhesive, easier to wear.
Yeah, it still kind of feels like a big pool noodle between your legs, though, and
Yes.
they're not the most comfortable to wear. Now, looking back on your life, did any of that first experience lead you to where you're at today?
I think all my experiences led me where I am today.
Oh, please
My
explain.
as a young girl, as a young married woman who had, a sex life that was not fulfilling, who had a husband, we didn't know a lot. I mean, at that point, he was my second partner, so I knew nothing, basically, and you didn't talk about it. So, I think all these experiences, I said to myself, "I know something's missing," and I remember saying to my husband, "Something's missing here." What's going on? Let's do this again. He's like, oh my God, no. I'm like, okay. And I felt ashamed. I was like, oh my God, we can't talk about this. And I remember saying to myself, this is miserable because what happened to me is as a younger girl, I remember I was in the gym, maybe 16, 17. And I had exercise orgasms
Oh,
where yes, and that's how I had my very first orgasm, where I was on the bar, your back is straight, your hands are like this, and you're bringing your legs up and out, down and up and out,
yeah.
and I had my first orgasm that way. I didn't know what it was, I just know it felt really good. So I remember killing myself, so as I got more used to it, it would take me longer. And I'm like, "Oh my," and then I can still do it today, where I don't even touch myself, it's just through orgasm. I mean, exercise, they actually call them exercise orgasm, that you can have them. So I had but I was young, I did not connect the dots all along until later, actually, when I was educating myself, and I'm like, "Oh my god, that is such a thing as an exercise orgasm."
Girls may enjoy gym more often if we had them. If we
Yes!
knew how to have those.
So, yes, I think all my experiences have led me to this point where I don't want anybody to have to suffer or not be educated or be ashamed or doubt themselves or not think they're entitled to pleasure or that they're just baby making machines. That's what sex is for, is just to make a baby. Um, you're allowed to have pleasure too. You're allowed to know your body. You're allowed to touch yourself. You're allowed to explore and understand because if you don't understand what turns you on, trust me, we think men know, they do not.
No.
That's a misnomer. They don't know any more than you do. Some, rare, you'll get some that are educated, but still, you gotta know what turns you on to help them.
And it opens the line of communication. It builds that relationship. If you can
Mm.
share with your partner, "Hey, I like it this way," or, "I appreciate you trying to do that, but that really didn't do it for me." That the right partner, it will open it up and it will give you a stronger relationship versus just laying there going, "Okay, if I tell him I like it and he's doing really good and it's doing absolutely nothing for me, what is that doing?"
Right.
That's
But
he's there.
unfortunately, we've been programmed by the patriarch that they know more. We need not to speak up. We need just to be quiet little girls and just suffer through it. And it becomes like, we don't want to hurt their feelings. Do you know how many times I hear, I don't want to hurt my partner's feelings? I'm like, "What about yours? What
Yeah.
about yours, though? Why don't you count?"
Yep. No, I that resonates with me. That resonates with me a lot is I don't wanna hurt his feelings, but Yet I I've been with individuals, it's like my needs weren't met,
Yeah.
and it's and they want to meet our needs. It's not that they
Yes.
don't. Well, the good partners want to meet your needs as well as theirs, and usually they try and put your happiness and your pleasure in front of their own. Um,
Yes, they do. The really good lovers, they want you to be pleased first. That gets them off
yep,
when they know they've done the job. Look at me, I'm the king. My wife is all, my partner is really having a good time here. That really gets them going.
yep, that it does, and you can see it. You can see that shift
Mhm.
from when I've even noticed when he will slow down his pleasure just to make sure I'm getting mine. And he'll
Mhm.
ask. Sometimes he'll ask if he's not sure. He'll ask. And then when I start reacting and I am getting what I would like, um, he I can see the enjoyment on his face and I can feel it
Mhm.
versus just, as some say, laying there like a dead fish.
Yeah,
That's not helping anybody.
right.
It's not helping you. It's not opening up communication. Yes, telling them in that moment that might not be the best time to have these conversations. Um,
Exactly.
but letting them know what you like and don't like. You do have to know beforehand what you like and don't like, either from previous partners or yourself.
Mhm.
And there kind of is a double standard.
Yes.
Um,
I am the queen of masturbation. I think, you have to know because I've gone periods of time without a partner. And that's how I have kept when I was, I'm now postmenopausal, but what that's how I kept my period on a very regular basis was I was the queen of masturbation. If I had cramps, if I didn't feel good, I would masturbate because it instantly would make me feel better.
Mhm.
So I enjoyed having my period. I really relished in it once I understood what was happening and how wonderful it made me feel afterwards. Yes, you do have that time where there are more different months than others. That you could feel crampy, more you're tired, especially when you start to come into perimenopause. I know you have a young audience, and that's the seed I wanted to plant with them today is, it's going to happen to you, and you can prepare now for later. We as women want to be thin. Now the research is out there. You want to be strong.
Mhm.
You want to go into all of this strong because you're going to spend a third of your life in some form of the menopause, whether it's peri, meno, or post. How do you want to live your life? How long do you want to keep yourself out of the nursing home to be a frail old lady?
Yep.
So these are, this generation you're speaking to is going to have so much more information than I did because it wasn't talked about in my generation because of the 2002 Women's Health Initiative study shut everything down. And now it's starting to they've debunked the study and they're starting to talk about how are we going to do these things? How do you live because women are living longer. We
Mhm.
haven't lived this long in our lives. So, how do we live this long joyously, healthy,
Yeah.
and
And
functioning?
we live longer than men. It's
Yes.
been seen for generations. Women live longer than men. And it's even in menopause, though, as you know, we don't lose our libido goes down because the hormones aren't all there, but that doesn't mean it stops. It doesn't mean we lose pleasure in having intercourse or even masturbation.
Well, it can and also can change because as we get older, and plus penis and vagina sex is not the only sex. Let's just put it on the table. I mean, women take 20 to 30 minutes or more to reach orgasm. Men, they can do it a nanosecond. The average penis and vagina sex is 5.7 minutes. Do the math. You know, women need more foreplay. Women need more nurturing. Women need, because they've got so many things going on in their head, that sometimes sex is the last thing they want to think about. So they need a phase to disconnect from their day, to nourishing themselves, like 30 minutes at least, to disconnect, and start preparing yourself. Like, I want to have sex tonight. What's that going to feel like? What's that going to look like? How do I want to do that? And then invite the pleasure in, instead of being in bed at 11 o'clock at night and going at it like rabbits and nobody's getting anything they want. You can lead up to it. Now, don't get me wrong, the quickie is just as good at times, but there's
Yep.
other times you really want to, make love and play and laugh and just enjoy each other's companies. And here's the other thing, it doesn't always have to lead to orgasm. It doesn't always. Sometimes it's just sensual play
Yeah.
that doesn't have to lead to orgasm.
Agreed. I've heard about you can either partner can start the day and send a text to their
Mhm.
other partner. Hey, would love to see you in this, or can't wait to get home to do this. So that way you have an entire day of foreplay
Yes.
leading up to them coming home and going through the daily routine, if you have children and everything, but there's that anticipation. You know what's coming.
Yes, because spontaneous desire is really, yes, sometimes you have spontaneous desire, but most times, no. It's contextual. You need things to help you get there. Because if you're the type, we have brakes and accelerators. So if you're the type that needs a clean sink, if you're the type, no dishes in the sink, or you need the kids in bed, or, whatever it is you need, and it's not happening, then you've got your brakes on. And you're
Mhm.
like, "No, no, this is you've got too many other things over here that," and you have to learn how to put your foot to the gas pedal. What is it that I can do? What can I delegate to my partner? "Look, if we're gonna do this tonight, I need you to do A, B, and C, and I'll meet you in the bedroom at whatever time." And also people don't like to plan sex. Guess what?
You
You
gotta
got
plan
you
sex.
gotta plan. We have busy, busy lives. You gotta put it in your calendar so that you both, like you said, can think about it. I mean, if
Mhm.
you can get yourself, men, they're quicker at thinking about it. Women, don't spend all day thinking about sex. But if you know Wednesday is sex night for you, you can start Wednesday with, oh my God, it's gonna happen tonight. What do I want to wear? Do I want to shave my legs? How are you preparing? Even when you were younger, we think it was spontaneous. It really wasn't, because if
Mhm.
you knew you were going to have sex at a younger age, you did things. You might have shaved your legs. You might have wore the pretty dress. You prepared, like, in case this is going to happen,
Yep.
I'm going to look good. I'm going to smell good. Whatever it is that you got you going, that you really were, happy about to present yourself like this, it wasn't really all that spontaneous. You kinda thought about it.
Yeah. Yep. I agree now that you say that, yeah.
Mhm.
You go out to a party and there's the off chance you might meet somebody, or
Mhm.
the off chance that the boy you have your eye on is gonna be there. We
Mhm.
know it may not lead to
Right.
intercourse, but we're still prepared,
Yes.
and they were too.
Yes. So the idea of, like, spontaneous sex is, not always spontaneous.
No. Sometimes it may feel like it, but no, it was there. Subconsciously, it was there.
Uh-huh.
The possibility was
Yes.
there.
The possibility the possibility was there. Yes.
So, besides a little bit of your background, You were a masseuse. How
Mhm.
did you get from even in the bio, it gave some detail. You went from masseuse into life coaching, and then how did all that materialize?
I was doing it on the table. My very first therapist was a Gestalt therapist. In Gestalt therapy, you talk. You talk about emotions, you talk about body pains. How does it all configure in together? That was my first therapist. So I didn't know you were just gonna relax on the table. I came from a talking background as a client. So when I became a therapist myself, it was natural to start that. I would attract clients that wanted to talk, and we talk about anything. And, um, so that's when I started to get my first life coaching certification, was like, "Well, let me find out if there's a better way to do this. If I can enhance um, the way, if I can, see if there's tips and tricks out there that I don't know." And then, when the pandemic hit, I had to shutter my business for 4 months. I'm like, "Oh boy, I would like to step into something different." And that's when I became certified in the love, sex, and coaching. And, because the sex end of it really intrigues me, because so many people are having bad sex. So many people don't know that they're allowed to have pleasure. So many people don't understand how their bodies function. um, they're afraid to introduce maybe toys, or they have shame, because we have to go back into childhood. And it's like, what are the messages that you received as a young person around sex? I actually have a free Love Your Libido workbook that takes you through this process. Do you feel ashamed? Was your home very religious? Did you see your parents be affectionate with one another? Because your first relationship is the model is your parents.
Yeah.
What you see there is what you're going to tend to repeat. And a lot of people don't realize that. So if you had warm, affectionate parents that weren't afraid to hug and kiss and be playful, you're going to expect that for yourself. If you had cold, distant parents, then you didn't get affection, you didn't get a glimpse into what sex was. So you might repeat that unless you re-educate yourself somewhere along the line. If you have a religious background, what is the religious message? Is it just to procreate? That's all sex is you're to be a baby making machine, and that's it. So in order to rework that and reprogram that message, you have to know what it was that you were given.
It makes a lot of sense. For someone who did come from that background of either religion where it's just for intercourse is for procreation, or they didn't see their parents um interact well. How can you help them change their frame of mind, or start embracing the fact that they are allowed to have pleasure themselves, either with themselves or communicating that with a partner?
Pleasure starts with our senses. So it doesn't always start with touching ourselves, masturbation. Pleasure can start with something as simple as, smelling a flower, tasting a meal that you really love, you know, excuse me, using all of your senses to reawaken that inside of you. And then it's about you, you know, getting in touch with your body. And everybody's individualized, so it could be like taking a bath, and what does that feel like, in the bathtub? What the water, your body, and start, just to rub your arms, and, just to really get, what does this all feel like? Nothing sexual, just
Mm.
what does this touch feel like? And you can start touching yourself in general, all over your body to get in touch. Like, oh, I like this stroke. Try a faster stroke. Try a really slow stroke. Oh, I like this. Oh, I don't like the really fast. I don't like it so firm. I like a feathery touch. And then you can introduce other objects. It can be a feather, it can be whatever that you choose to rub on your skin and see how you like that sensation. So it's really getting in touch with your body, your senses. What's your favorite meal? Is it dessert? Is it breakfast? Is it, sit there and savor this meal. A nice piece of, I don't know, red velvet cake I love. Sit there and, take a mouthful and savor it. Put your fork down and really let it just pop in your mouth. What does it feel like? What is it, what's it sending to your brain? The smell, the taste, reawaken yourself to these experiences to warm your body up to touch and sex.
I love it. You had brought in earlier when you were younger and how masturbation or even intercourse around your cycle helped.
Mm.
I know that that is something positive. From your standpoint, how do you incorporate that? Is it just whenever we feel like it or however we feel like it? Or do you have any recommendations on that aspect?
I always tell women, if they're having menstrual cramps or they're just feeling, I'm like, orgasm, and you don't need a partner to have one. Will help release all of that. I always tended to like to do it at that point. For me, my preference was alone because, I might want to take a nap afterwards. I might not want to please him in the moment because I'm bleeding. I have cramps. I'm not really into him right now. I'm looking for relief. I'm looking for an orgasm that's gonna help me start my flow, get the flow going, relieve my cramps, also for headaches, migraines. If you get to orgasm, it's good for that too. So it's kind of like for me, it was a solo experience. I'm not saying you can't do it with your partner, but that it's kinda up to you how you wanna do that, but I just liked spending time with myself because I feel that's what the cycle is about. You're most psychic, you're most intuitive, you just wanna rest, nurture. This is our problem, is we don't do that anymore. It's almost like women, like, you're shamed that you're bleeding in the workplace. You're shamed that you're bleeding and taking up space at home, that you wanna lay on the couch, you wanna nurture yourself, have a nice cup of tea or coffee, or, just watch TV without all the outside noise. Our productivity, we always think we should be busy, busy, busy. If you can, this is the time to rest, relax, and enjoy yourself. You know that.
I know that. I just love having somebody else say it because my listeners have heard it from me time and time again.
Mhm.
But I think them hearing it from others also helps resonate that, okay, it's not just Heather saying it, it's Anne saying it. I've heard this on how many episodes of Embracing Flow, which is beautiful. I love that we are sharing we have to slow down.
Yes, and especially in perimenopause when you can go months. I mean, because to get to menopause, you have to go 1 whole year without a cycle. Then the next day you're in menopause, the day after that it's postmenopausal. It's the craziest thing how they name all of this. But when you're in perimenopausal, when you're missing 3, 4 months at a time, it can feel unbearable. I just had a client the other day. She's like, "Anne, I am so out of sorts." And she says, "I feel like I'm wanna bleed all the time, but I'm not bleeding." And I says, "I understand it's uncomfortable at times, this phase." I says, "But it will end. I said to her, "Why don't you try taking some Midol and see if that'll help with," because with the
Yeah.
symptoms. She came for massage. I says, "Go home." She canceled the rest of her day. She says, "I feel so good. I wanna go home and relax. My work can wait till Monday. It's not important. I'm
Love
just
it.
gonna go home and do that." I said, "That's see how you're laying a new foundation for yourself? That this is what is needed. And this is any woman that's cycling. I mean,
Mhm.
I used to remember in between clients, I used to be so exhausted, I would actually lay down like for 10 minutes and take a nap. And it felt a little, it was refreshing. Like, okay, I can't go and do. It's
No.
not going to happen. I don't want
Mm-mm.
it to happen.
Nope. Maybe in our 20s and early 30s we could, but yes, as you said, perimenopause, we have to slow down. We have to start getting in touch with ourselves on several different levels through
Hmm.
all the phases. Even in our 20s, yes, we have that mentality to run. Yet even in our 20s, cycles have completely changed when you go and you give yourself time to relax. That
Hmm.
PMS goes away. That PMDD gets less symptomatic. Your periods can come on and you're like, wow, I didn't have the pain, the nausea, the heavy flow that I normally do when I pushed through the month before.
Hmm.
It's amazing how our cycles change when we slow down.
Yes, and food and alcohol play a big, big part. Now, I
Mhm.
love a good cocktail like the rest of them, but when I was postmenopausal, like, 5 years? Yeah, just a year and a half, I actually stopped drinking. My sister I was the party girl. She said, "Oh, this is my sister, the party girl," I'm like, I would have 1 drink, and it felt like I would have 3, and I said to myself, "I don't wanna do this anymore.
Yep.
I can't do this anymore. My body is saying no." And it was such a welcomed gift I gave to myself, because I struggle with food, I'll be honest, I have food issues, I've had my whole life, and, when I don't eat clean, I'm exhausted. Food plays a big, big part. It's a big part of, and that's in the perimenopause, menopause, that's one of the 5 things that they'll tell you to
Mhm.
prepare is, nutrition, exercise, stress reduction, self-care, sleep, and, hormone replacement therapy, because we're
Yep.
losing our hormones. So you need a little boost. It's not for everybody, but it worked magic for me. I thought I was, like, lost my will to live, and I'm like, "Oh my god," I felt the estrogen leave my body 5 years postmenopausal. Happened late for me. My menopause was late at 56, and I last year, I just fell apart, and I said, "Oh, I don't wanna do this." And I got on the low dose patch and the progesterone because I have a uterus. Game changer. Game and plus I shared the study with you, the
Mhm.
long-term benefits of being on hormone replacement therapy. You'll even hear it referred to as menopause therapy. The long-term benefits is something that I really fought for too. Reduction in breast cancer, the number 1 killer of women is not breast cancer, it is heart disease.
Yep.
We are dying of heart disease,
Mhm.
reduction in heart disease, colon cancer, dementia, broken bones. I mean, you can't put a price on this. So, you want it for the immediate relief and you want it for the long term. And as many doctors have said, "Well, how long are you going to be on HRT?" And I've learned doctor speak. As long as the
Mm.
benefits outweigh the risks the rest of my life, because I want these long-term benefits, and there's studies out there. I shared one with Heather about this. So, um, really prepare yourself as young women. Don't worry about being skinny, worry about being strong,
Yep.
and building on your nutrition and your strength, and,
And
nurture yourself
yeah,
through your cycle now. So when this phase comes, it'll be very different for them.
yeah. And it's understanding that our cycles are needed. Our
Oh,
cycles are
so
vital.
needed.
That it's not just again, we've grown up that sex is just for reproduction and that cycles, periods are just for reproduction. No, they are vital to health.
Yes. And the message we're giving is very awful. When I was young, they actually called it the curse. I don't know if
Mhm.
it's still called that, or they're on the rag,
Mhm.
or, we're made fun of. Oh, you're on your period. You must be on your period. Oh my God, I
Mhm.
want to strangle people, especially the men when I hear that utter nonsense.
Yeah. And I've heard women say it as well.
Yes.
Oh, she's PMSing.
Yeah.
Stay away from so and so. She's PMSing today. She's a royal bitch.
Yes.
She
And
must
we
be
need
PMSing.
Yeah, and we need to honor ourselves. We need to start telling young women this is an honor to
Mhm.
bleed every month. This is your body doing what it's naturally made to do. This is great to have this gift. I
Yes.
felt once I understood my period, I really had, it just flowed for me every 28 days, like, "Here it is. Oh, great," and I would bleed, and I would feel good, and I'm like, "Oh."
Yep. I wish I had that. I did not. It wasn't until my mid-40s that I started appreciating it and realizing how vital it is to us. And now that I know, that's why I love being that megaphone and sharing my experience and saying, "Yeah, I had those horrible periods, but you can have great periods
Mhm.
and you can change it. It doesn't without medication,
Yeah,
preferably, uh, if you feel it's necessary and that's the road for you, okay. Just understand what it's doing. Understand what your body is naturally supposed to do and what the medication's doing, and then
right,
make your choice."
and make your choice. Because that's what this is. You're allowed to make a choice, but my thing is you must make an informed choice. You
Yes.
must get yourself educated. And I had what for me to be on HRT, I took birth control for 8 months of my life. I didn't like it. It wasn't for me. Um, but when it came to HRT, I intuitively knew like something's happening. So I had to educate myself. I found all the information comes from doctors that comes out of my mouth. I have read books all from
Mhm.
doctors. I follow Gen X doctors on Instagram, and these doctors have it going on because they have receipts, they have the data, they have the science, why you would want to do this for yourself and why you might not want to. But
Mhm.
know your choices. Know, I have a hereditary blood clotting disorder I got last year. And I thought for sure I wasn't gonna be allowed on it, and there's studies that if you use the patch, it does not increase your blood clotting disorder whatsoever. And I had to go through 3 gynecologists, 2 hematologists to get the approvals I needed, but I didn't stop at the first doctor who said no.
Yeah.
And you can't.
Yeah.
There are menopause specialists out there. There are doctors that are informed, but I had to go with studies and I had doctors that actually wouldn't read them. They just blew me off and I'm like, "Okay, I'm not doing this with you." And I would find a new doctor who, would read my studies, understand. The doctor said to me, he was an 80-year-old white male. He says, why do you want to be on HRT?" I said to him, because if my body's going to make spontaneous blood clots and I can die at any minute, I'm going to die happy.
Yeah.
And he says, that's all I need to know about you as a patient. So he knew my risk level, that I
Mhm.
was willing to do this because I wanted a certain type of life. I wanted to feel good about myself. And I do now.
Yeah.
So But I had to educate, and don't get me wrong, I was a little nervous. I'm like, "Boy, I'm rolling the dice here." I'm rolling the
Yeah,
dice. If it doesn't go in my favor, you know, so
yeah.
who knew? But I had confidence in my decision making. I had confidence in the doctors that I was listening to. I had receipts, I had studies, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna say yes to myself
Yeah.
and see where it goes."
You made an informed decision versus somebody
Yes,
saying, doing a quick review of what medical history you know, because I don't know my great grandmother's medical history.
right.
I kind of know my grandmother's medical history. I sort of know my father's medical history. I kind of know my mother's medical history. So the doctor can review the medical history you know and you give them, but they can't tell you what's going to happen on that medication. You have to be an advocate for yourself.
Right.
You have that intuitive. Now that I've been in this space, intuitively, I know I will not do hormonal birth control during my reproductive years. I'm in
Mhm.
perimenopause right now. I'm going to use natural fertility awareness that I'm trained in. I track my cycle. I know if I'm ovulating. I know if I'm not ovulating. Um, but it's a decision I made because that intuitively my body doesn't want that medication anymore.
Right.
And it's okay if somebody else does.
It's okay. That's the great thing about choices. And that's why it's great to have 2 different perspectives so people can hear, like, "Yes, this worked for this person. No, I wanna go down this road." And I don't have to sit here and convince you because
Mhm.
you know what road is best for you. But I do believe you need to be presented with options.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, because you can't make choices without informed consent, choices, options, and being educated.
Yep. No, I completely agree. Um, with just any of your body choices, not just
Mhm,
the birth control, but any medication, any decision you make with regards to your body, we are the CEOs of our body.
mhm,
We have that decision. We rely on medical professionals to give us options. However, it's our responsibility though to ask questions. And if we don't feel comfortable with the answers we're given from those medical professionals, we have the ability to go say, you know what, I'm going to go find a better answer. I'm not happy with that answer.
right, and you can't, because we've been taught that our doctors are gods, and, they all know, and there are doctors that are like that. And that's what I ended up firing my first hematologist about because he said to me, "Okay." I said to him, "I'm gonna do this." He says, "Okay, so when you call me from the hospital because you threw a pulmonary embolism, you know why." Okay, that's how you roll.
All right.
That's your warning. That's you wanna scare me? You're not scaring me. Now you're just pissing me off.
Thank you for that standpoint. I'm going to go find somebody else who's going to listen. I'm going
Yes.
to find somebody else who is going to hear what I have to say. If I do come to you with an issue that I do have water retention, I am still having heavy cycles. I'm experiencing migraines, auras, and not just be told that's part of being female. Sorry.
Oh, yes. Oh, go home and have a glass of wine. Oh, that's part of it. No.
Y-
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
No, thank you. There is something that's not right. Our
Yeah.
bodies are telling us this. We listen and then we go to our professionals and they're like, that's you're okay. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong. That's just what your body does.
Mhm.
That is a big pile of baloney.
You're being
And I'm being good.
gaslit.
Yeah,
You're
you're
being
being
gaslit,
gaslit.
actually. Because they don't know.
Mhm.
They don't know, honestly.
They
In
don't.
menopause, the doctors that I listen to, they're like, "We had 8 hours of training on menopause in
Mhm.
gynecological school."
Yep.
How are we she's one doctor says that's I said the same thing, that what did I know? Until she started going through menopause and had to go find her answers for herself because they weren't around.
Yeah. And I've heard that from other individuals that are in that same space that they're not taught. Uh, I see it time and time again. Individuals go in and they say, they're like, something's not right. I'm having this symptom. And they're like, oh no, that is it the birth control? No, 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 it's not the birth control. That's not one of the side effects of the birth control. Yet intuitively they think, well, let me read the packet the next time they get their birth control. And they look at the side effects and oh, surprise, that is
Yeah,
a side effect. And here they are, they're medical professionals, and they don't mean us harm. They're not taught.
right,
It, it's not given to them. They're just told, hey, this medication does this, 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 and this, and it'll help with this.
right.
And when the individual saw that on her packet, that those were side effects, she's like, what the heck? And it's all of us need to educate and advocate for ourselves.
Yeah,
We have to be the CEOs of our own bodies and make those choices. And sometimes they're hard choices. They're not the easy road.
right,
Going natural fertility awareness, it is not the easy road. Removing gluten is not the easy road.
right.
Removing sugar is not the easy road. But you know what? My body's happier.
Yeah. Mhm.
And talking to our partners isn't always the easiest when it comes to intimacy.
Oh, no. Because, it's interesting, everybody's afraid. They'll talk about money, and money's so controversial for couples, but they won't talk about sex. It is so amazing to me.
Yeah.
I had a client, she's, I don't know, early 40s, and, we were talking about introducing toys to her sex life. And she thought about she said, "Oh, later, week later, I'm not ready. I don't feel, I want to talk to my husband about it." And now for me, it's like it's just the difference. That's her
Mhm.
comfort level. For me, it's so normal and ordinary to like have toys. My partner will be like, "Bring your toys, don't forget your toys." So it's so abstract to me to go, okay, that's where she's at, and
Mhm.
that's okay.
Yeah. I was introduced to toys in my 20s. Um, and then I had some negative experiences and I threw them all out.
Mhm.
I was given a couple toys and there was again negativity around them and I got rid of them. And then I got more toys. I was reintroduced to toys. I went to a show and one a show I never thought I'd go to, but I did. It was at a friend of mine's house and I'm like, "Ooh, I like that idea. I like that idea. I like that
Mhm.
idea." And my current partner, I told him, I said, "I got rid of my toys." And then I was away on vacation. I was away overnight or whatever, and I came home, or I don't know how, I forget exactly. He's like, um, "I accidentally knocked over the pink bag that was on your nightstand, and I went to go pick it up, and it was rather heavy." He said, "I thought you got rid of all your toys." I'm like, "I remember that party that I went to the other month." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I got more." And he's like, "Oh." Well, next thing you know, he's pulling out the toys.
Mhm.
I'm home and he's pulling it. He's like, "Let's try this one. Let's try that one." I'm like, "Okay."
I find the men that are most secure with their sexuality and are not threatened by toys love the toys. But sometimes the men that aren't, they think the toys are gonna bring better pleasure, whatever they got going on in their head, they're more insecure, they don't want them, or they've not used them. That's sometimes where the barrier is, where, you have the conversation around that. Well,
Mhm.
I wanna try this, so let's use this and see where it goes. I
Yep.
mean, you might have to get a little strong and go, "But I want to try this," or try it on your own and then introduce it,
Yep.
you
But yeah.
know, to your partner. But yeah, toys are fun.
Yeah. And it's they're nice to have for when they're passed out. You don't want to interrupt them and they're sleeping. And you're like, I can't sleep.
Yeah.
All right, let's get Bob out.
Mhm. Yes.
And then you orgasm and you're like, okay, and you have a great night's sleep. And it's not that
Yes.
you don't love your partner less. It's not that you don't want to be with your partner. It's just they're sleeping. And yes, there are some that they're like, well, wake me the heck up. Yeah.
Right, right. They wanna see.
And or they want to see, or yeah, I'll take care of you. But it's you do feel bad about interrupting their sleep, especially if they're in a deep sleep. You don't want to interrupt them to fulfill your needs.
Mhm.
So it's kind
But
of like,
sometimes it's nothing to do with them.
no, it's
Sleep.
yeah,
I wanna feel, sometimes it can be 2, 3, 5 minutes, whatever it is. It's just you can't sleep, you wanna get it done, and you wanna go back to sleep. You need that release for
yep,
relaxation to put
yep,
you at that's all that is,
yeah,
little pleasure for you
yeah.
and back to sleep. I've done it numerous times.
Yeah, it's not that we love our partner less. It's not that we don't enjoy that connection with them. It's just very much like men will take their pleasure into their hands. I mean, we
Yes.
joke about it.
It's the same thing.
Sandy Palmer and her Five Sisters or whatever it is.
Yeah.
We joke about it with them, and they're usually very open with the fact that they masturbate. It's we know.
Standard 101.
Yes. Yes. We know with infant boys that they're going to touch themselves. Girls, they're like, "Oh, no, 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 you can't do that.
Yes.
No, let."
That
But
is the worst thing you can do. You just redirect them. "Oh,
yeah,
we do that in the bedroom. You do
yep,
that and go in there and do that in private.
yeah,
It's perfectly acceptable. We just don't do it in public.
yeah,
Go over there." And that's how you redirect the little ones. But you don't shame them because that's what
mm,
happens with girls.
yep,
They get, "Oh, I'm doing something wrong. Something's not right here."
and it's our
And
body.
they shut it down.
Yeah, it's our body, and then when the doctor's like, "Well, didn't you notice that you have this growth on your labia?" Well, no, I don't touch that.
Yeah.
I I I don't look at that.
Yeah.
Well, why not?
Women, you know how many women have not looked at their vulva and vulvas?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I'm like, "Do you know what it looks like?" And because this is the other problem, there are so many different types of vulvas
Yep.
that they look, if you've ever been on porn or seen naked women or this is the thing now. I want to look like the women in porn. Why? That's your
Yeah.
special vulva.
Yeah.
That's what you look like.
Yeah.
Honor that. Cherish that.
Yep.
We all don't look alike. Some have
No.
outies, some are innies, some labias are bigger, and
Yeah.
and your clitoris, as you get excited, is going to grow like the penis because that's
Yep.
actually the penis.
Yep.
We
That's
just
the
have
female penis.
right. We have the same parts, just repositioned in
Mhm.
different areas. So
Yep.
your clitoris is going to grow
Yep.
large
Yeah.
as the more excited you get. That's normal.
Yeah. And even as our cycles change, I know part of some fertility awareness methods will teach you to look at your cervix, not look at it, but also feel it because it changes position inside your vaginal canal throughout the month and it changes texture
Mhm.
and it actually changes color around 12 weeks of pregnancy. It turns blue. And
Wow.
yeah, so w- this is our body.
Mhm.
It's not something to be ashamed of. We're allowed to touch it. Even saying the body parts, it,
Yes.
being able to say breast or vulva or vagina, knowing that the difference between the vulva and the vagina.
We call everything the vagina. I'm like, the vagina's inside. The vulva's your outside. We
Yep.
have two names. It's two parts.
Yep.
But you say vulva, people are like, oh, my vagina. Okay, yeah, your vagina, but it's really the vulva. And, you're always talking.
Yep. Yeah. It's using those body parts. It's we wouldn't call an eye a vision
Ball.
instrument. So why are we changing the names of our body parts to be cutesy?
Yeah.
It's their vaginas, their vulvas, clitoris, cervix, ovaries, fallopian tubes, the uterus, penis,
Yeah.
scrotum, testes, anus. Why are we changing the names to be cutesy? It's
Taboo.
yeah,
Because it's
yeah.
so taboo. And here's the other thing, that I discovered for women after they've had babies, and even women that haven't had babies, they should be seeing a pelvic floor therapist. Because
Mhm.
when you have a baby, everything gets rearranged everywhere. And I've had clients that one thought she had hemorrhoids, terrible hemorrhoids. Went to the surgeon. He's like, "You don't have hemorrhoids. You have pelvic floor dysfunction." That's where she needed to be. I have a client who just discovered her oldest is 18 years old, 18, 17 years old, and she has IBS, and she thought it was IBS. It actually was from childbirth. She has, ligaments out of
Mhm.
order that was affecting her IBS. So she's now going to a pelvic floor therapist. All these years, it was so just be aware, if you're having issues, sex should never be painful. If you're having issues, pelvic floor therapy.
Yep. If you're incontinent,
Yes.
um, if you notice that your cervix is outside your body,
Yeah, it's a problem.
especially that's a problem. It's pelvic floor, and it with incontinence, they say it's weak pelvic floor when actually it could be your pelvic floor is too tight.
Yes.
Because I went and I was at a convention where there was a pelvic floor therapist, and she said it's not just loose ligaments with pelvic floor. It
Right.
could be that
It's
your pelvic floor could be too tight.
yes, constipation is can be part of that too. So it's behooves a woman to be checked out by a pelvic floor therapist to see actually what is going on with you because it does mask itself as other conditions.
Yep. Yeah. I've had incontinence since I was running, everything. And it's pelvic floor.
Yeah.
And it was pelvic floor before I had children.
Yeah.
And
And
if
it's
you
not just Kegels.
no,
Kegels Kegels can make it tighter. So it's not just always doing Kegels. You have to offset the other muscles too.
yep, there's a lot of different muscles in
Yes.
our pelvic floor, not just the Kegels.
Yes.
And knowing which exercises to do to build those and to not grow them, but strengthen them
Yeah.
can help us walk better, function better.
Yeah.
There's so much that goes into our pelvic floor that we don't always realize.
Right. And the other thing is the genital urinary symptoms of menopause, where because we're losing estrogen in the vagina and vulva, our parts can actually atrophy.
Mhm.
If, it'll help with urinary tract infections. It'll help with bladder issues. It'll help with painful sex. So I was starting to feel like I was getting UTIs, and I'm like, "What is this feeling?" And that's when I was prescribed, vaginal estrogen, and it's topical, I have the cream, but it's localized. So it's very trace amounts, but it's just enough. It's like, they do have vaginal moisturizers, but it's like a moisturizer and it helps with all of those genital urinary symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. And if I can say anything else, lube, lube, lube.
Thank
You
you.
know, lube, even younger people, okay? Young people in your 20s, start lubing. You know, there's this misnomer, "Oh, I'm so wet." Okay, great, you're so wet. But still use if you're going at it, you know, for you to wake up sore the next day, it's not really a good thing.
Mm-mm.
Use the lube. You
Lube
know, we
is
think it
good.
is. You know, we think it is, "Oh, I'm so sore from, the last night." I'm like, "Oh boy." I used to have that belief, and it's not, help yourself out and use the lube and all of that to help you.
I agree. A friend of mine, I had her on, and biggest thing, lubrication, lubrication,
Mhm.
lubrication. You're going to the OBGYN's office for your annual exam, take your own lube.
Yeah,
It You have something entering your vagina, lube,
yeah,
because you don't want those tears, you don't want.
right, all those micro tears, and here's the other thing, if you're gonna have anal sex, double the lube. Don't double the lube. People think the anus is only a little self-lubricating. I had one woman, she goes, "Oh, but I'm so wet, I didn't think I needed any lube," but she ended up with hemorrhoids. It was a nightmare. I said to her, "Lube, the anus and the vagina aren't 2 different orifices." You've gotta have slow and lube, and it's not the vagina, okay? So if you're gonna, participate in anal, really, really educate yourself about that. It's just a different orifice, and it needs patience, slow, no rushing.
Yeah, that is a slow. It's not a wham bam thank you ma'am area.
No. And you can do anal training, get a butt plug, start with that, wear that, get the orifice used to it, you just gotta introduce it slowly
Yeah.
because, you
Yeah, it
know,
can do some damage, and
you
it
can
can hurt.
do some damage.
Some major
Anal
damage.
sex should not hurt either. If you're doing it
Yep,
right, it doesn't hurt.
yep. I agree. Oh my goodness. And where can people find you and get more information like you've shared here on Embracing Flow?
My website is aconfidentialconversation.com. I'm also on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. I just joined TikTok. I love TikTok. I was really resistant. Love TikTok. That's where they can find me.
I've been on some of her social media sites. Lots of wonderful information
Well, thank
there.
you.
Before we go, Anne, do you have any wise words of wisdom to leave us with?
I would say when I turned 40 is when I stopped giving a shit what other people think. Adapt that in your 20s. Stop with the peer pressure, follow your path, follow your intuition, really get to know yourself. Tap into yourself. You're not going to always get it right. You're going to make mistakes, and that's part of learning too. But go for it and don't be afraid.
I love it. That is amazing words of wisdom to end on. Thank you so much, Anne, for taking us on this enlightening journey into love, sex, and slowing down and getting in tune with our bodies. I really appreciate you being here on Embracing Flow.
Thank you so much, Heather. It was a joy.
All the links that Anne had mentioned can be found in the show notes. Thank you so much, listeners, for spending your time with us today. If you found a nugget of wisdom or a moment of empowerment, my mission is accomplished. Do you know someone who could benefit from this information? Please share Embracing Flow with them. Until next time, my friends, love hard, laugh often, and as always, be vividous. Talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Embracing Flow. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow the show, submit a rating and review, and share it with your friends. Visit my website to receive your free PDF on 4 ways to decrease PMS. The link is in the show notes. Until next time, love hard, laugh often, and as always, be vividous. Information shared on the Embracing Flow podcast is for educational purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice.